They put the best agent they had on Big Meech's line. 6 weeks later, he walked out of the bureau. No report, no explanation, just silence. What did he hear? They gave him the Meech file on a Tuesday morning. Special Agent Marcus Holloway. 15 years with the bureau. 8 of those on organized crime. He'd worked By the end of the first week, Holloway was listening 12 hours a day. He'd arrive at the wire room before sunrise, headphones on, coffee going cold beside him. Phelps would rotate in and out, but Holloway stayed. He told himself it was because the case was important. But that wasn't it. He stayed because he couldn't stop listening. Meech's voice had a rhythm to it, steady, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world and knew you'd wait for him to finish. Most criminals talked like they were being chased. Meech talked like he was already where he needed to be. The calls kept coming. Atlanta, Detroit, Miami, Houston, Los Angeles, dozens a day. And slowly, Holloway started to see the structure. BMF wasn't a gang. It wasn't a crew. It was a corporation. Meech had lieutenants in every city. Each one ran their own territory. They reported up. They asked permission. They waited for approval. And Meech gave it or didn't with one sentence. Handle that. Not yet. Let me think on it. No yelling. No threats. Just control. One call came in from a guy in Detroit named Omari. He was panicking. Said the plug was raising prices. Said they couldn't move product at that margin. Said they needed to find someone else. Meech listened. Didn't interrupt. When Omari finished, Meech spoke. You done? Yeah. Aight. So here's what you're not hearing. The plug raises prices because he can. And he can because we need him more than he needs us. Right now. Omari started to respond, but Meech kept going. You want to switch? Cool. But the next man gonna do the same thing in 6 months. Because that's the game. So instead of running, we build. We stack. We make it so when we walk, they feel it. You feel me? Silence on the line. Then, yeah, Meech, I feel you. Good. Stay patient. We moving right. Click. Holloway sat back. He replayed it. Meech hadn't just solved a problem. He'd taught something. Patience. Long-term thinking. Power through position, not panic. Holloway had listened to cartel leaders, mob bosses, gang kingpins. None of them talked like that. They ruled through fear, through violence, through making examples. Meech ruled through respect. And it was working. Holloway started a second notebook. The first one was for the case. Evidence. Locations. Names. Transactions. The second one was for everything else. He didn't know why he was keeping it. He just knew he needed to. In it, he wrote, Subject doesn't operate like other distributors. Displays CEO-level discipline. Delegates with clarity. Rarely raises voice. Solutions, focused, not reaction-based. He paused, then added, Soldiers follow him because they believe in him, not because they're afraid. Holloway underlined that last part. He'd never written anything like it in 15 years. Vake 2. The calls got deeper. Meech wasn't just talking business anymore. He was talking philosophy. One night, he was on the phone with someone named T. Holloway knew from the file that T was Meech's younger brother. Week 3. Holloway wasn't sleeping right anymore. He'd come home late, sit at the kitchen table, stare at nothing. His wife asked if he was okay. He said yes, but he wasn't, because the more he listened, the less the case made sense. Not the evidence, there was plenty of that, but the man. Meech wasn't supposed to be this smart, this organized, this calm. The file said he was a drug dealer. The wire said he was something else. Holloway started mapping the network. He printed out a large sheet of paper and pinned it to the wall of the wire room. Started writing names, drawing lines, connecting calls. Detroit, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Miami, Charlotte, St. Louis, Louisville, Dallas. BMF had people everywhere, but it wasn't chaotic. It was structured. Every city had a captain. Every captain reported to Meech or Southwest T. Every decision flowed through Atlanta, and everyone waited for Meech's word. One call came in from a guy named Jabo in Los Angeles. He was setting up a club appearance for Meech. Wanted to make sure everything was perfect. "We got 3 sections reserved. Bottles on deck. Security cleared. You want me to bring anybody specific?" Meech thought for a second. "Yeah, bring the photographer from last time. And make sure the DJ knows no disrespectful music. We're showing love that night. Keep it smooth." "Got it." "And Jabo? Yeah? Make sure people feel welcome. This ain't about stunting. It's about showing appreciation. You treat people right, they remember." "Say less, Meech." Holloway paused the recording. He'd been on organized crime for 8 years. He'd wiretapped men who ordered hits over breakfast, who talked about bodies like they were talking about groceries. Meech was planning a party, and he was doing it like a brand strategy. Holloway kept digging. He pulled up financial records, cross-referenced phone numbers with public databases, started connecting dots, and that's when he saw it. BMF wasn't just a drug operation. It was a pipeline into legitimate society. Meech had relationships with club promoters, record executives, athletes, models, music producers. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was operating in plain sight. And people loved him for it. One call stood out. Meech was talking to a rapper Holloway recognized from the radio. The guy had a hit song that year, was all over MTV. The rapper was asking Meech for advice. Not about drugs, about his career. "I don't know if I should sign with them," the rapper said. "They're offering decent money, but I don't trust the contract." Meech listened. "You got a lawyer?" "Yeah, but he's saying I should take it." "Then get a second lawyer. Someone who's not trying to get paid off your signature. You only get one shot at this. Don't let nobody rush you into something that ain't right." The rapper sounded relieved. "Good looking, Meech. I appreciate you, bro. Anytime. And remember, just cause they offering, don't mean you owe them. You control your name. Don't ever forget that." Holloway sat back. This wasn't a drug deal. This was mentorship. He went through more calls. Meech talking to a club owner in Miami about investing in real estate. Meech talking to a kid in Detroit about staying in school. Meech talking to a woman in Atlanta about opening a boutique. Told her he'd help fund it if she put together a real business plan. Holloway looked at the map on the wall. All those lines, all those names, and in the center, Big Meech. Not just a kingpin. Pillash. People didn't just work for him. They believed in him. One night, Holloway found a call that made him stop cold. Meech was talking to someone older. The voice was rough, tired. Holloway couldn't identify him from the file. The man was apologizing. "I messed up, Meech. I know I did. I didn't know what else to do." Meech's voice came through, calm as ever. "What happened? My daughter. She got sick. Hospital bills stacking up. I couldn't cover it." Week 5, Holloway had stopped talking about the case at home. His wife knew something was wrong. She didn't push, but she noticed. He was distant, distracted. He'd sit at dinner and not eat, just stare at his plate like he was working something out in his head. One night she asked, "Is it a hard case?" He looked up. "Yeah," he said. "Something like that." But that wasn't it. It wasn't hard. It was impossible. Because the more Holloway listened, the less he understood what he was supposed to do with what he was hearing. The case was solid. The evidence was there. But the man on the wire didn't match the charges. And Holloway couldn't reconcile it. He showed up to the wire room early on a Wednesday morning. Phelps wasn't in yet. The room was quiet. Holloway logged in, pulled up the overnight queue. 11 new calls. He started with the first one. It was Meech, talking to someone Holloway didn't recognize. The voice was young, nervous. "I don't know if I can do this, Meech." "Do what?" "All of it. The responsibility, the decisions. I keep thinking I'm gonna mess it up." Meech didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was softer than Holloway had heard before. "You know what the difference is between a king and a boss? The kid said, "Nah. A boss tells people what to do. A king makes people want to follow. And the only way you do that is by being the kind of man you'd follow yourself." Silence. Meech continued, "You're scared. That's good. Means you care. Means you understand what's at stake. The ones you gotta worry about are the ones who ain't scared. The ones who think they got it figured out. They're the ones who fall. So what do? You show up. Every day. You listen. You learn. You take care of the people around you. And when you mess up because you will, you own it. You don't hide. You don't blame. You stand in it. And you fix it." The kid let out a breath. I hear you. Good. Now tell me what's really going on." The kid hesitated. Then he said, "I lost somebody last week, my cousin. He got caught in some beef that wasn't even his, and I keep thinking, what if I'd been there? What if I'd done something different?" Meech's voice stayed calm. "You can't carry that. I know you want to, but you can't. You do right by his memory. You make sure his people are straight. And you keep moving. Because if you stop, you disrespect what he stood for. You understand? Yeah. Then get up. And go be great." That's what he'd want. The call ended. Holloway sat frozen. He rewound it, played it again, and again. He must have listened to it 7 times. Then he picked up his pen. And in the second notebook, the one he wasn't supposed to be keeping, he wrote, "Subject is not operating as a criminal. He is operating as a mentor, a protector, a father figure to dozens, maybe hundreds of young men who have no one else." He stopped, stared at the page. Then he wrote something else, something he underlined twice. "If we take him down, we don't just arrest a drug dealer, we remove a pillar. And I don't know what happens to the people who depend on him." Holloway set the pen down. His hand was shaking. He'd been doing this job for 15 years. He'd put away murderers, traffickers, mob enforcers. And he'd never once questioned whether he was doing the right thing. Until now. He looked at the screen, at the file, at the evidence he'd been collecting for 5 weeks. It was all there. Meech was guilty, no question. But Holloway couldn't stop thinking about the voices on the other end of the line. The people who called Meech when they didn't know what else to do. The ones who needed money for their kids. Advice for their future. Permission to make a decision. Meech wasn't just running an organization. He was holding people together. And if the FBI took him down, all those people would scatter. Some would fall back into poverty. Some into worse hands. Some into violence they'd been protected from. Holloway knew how this worked. He'd seen it before. You remove the head. The body doesn't die clean. It fractures. And the pieces hurt more people than the whole ever did. He closed the notebook, locked it in his desk drawer. Phelps walked in 20 minutes later with coffee and a bagel. "Morning," he said. "Anything good overnight?" Holloway shook his head. "Nah, just routine." But it wasn't routine. And Holloway knew it. He stayed in the wire room until 9 p.m. that night, listened to 16 more calls. And every single one reinforced what he already knew. Big Meech wasn't just a drug dealer. He was a leader. The kind of man people followed because they wanted to. Because he made them believe they could be more than what the world told them they were. And Marcus Holloway, special agent, FBI, 15 years on the job, didn't know what to do with that. Because the law said Meech was guilty. But everything Holloway had heard said he was necessary. That night, Holloway went home, sat in his car in the driveway for 20 minutes. His wife came out, knocked on the window. He rolled it down. "You coming in?" she asked. He looked at her, and for the first time in his career, Marcus Holloway didn't know how to answer a simple question, because the case wasn't simple anymore, and neither was he. Week 6. Holloway didn't show up to work on Monday. His supervisor called his cell twice. No answer. Phelps sent a text. "You good? Need me to cover the wire?" No response. By Tuesday, the deputy director got involved. They tried his home phone. His wife answered. "Is Marcus available?" She hesitated. "He's not feeling well. We need him on the wire." This is a priority case. I understand, but he's not coming in today. She hung up before they could push further. Wednesday morning, a letter arrived at the field office. One envelope, federal return address. Inside, a single piece of paper, typed. No signature. It read, "Effective immediately. I am resigning from my position as special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Thank you for the opportunity to serve." That was it. No explanation. No details. No meeting. Just done. The supervisor called an emergency briefing. Phelps was there. 2 senior agents. The deputy director on speaker. "What the hell happened?" the deputy director asked. Phelps shrugged. "I don't know. He seemed fine. Quiet, maybe. But he's always quiet." "Did he say anything? Mention stress? Family issues?" "Nothing. He just worked. Every day. 12, 14 hours on the wire. He didn't complain." The supervisor leaned back. "We need to access his case notes. Everything he logged. If he compromised the investigation, we need to know now." They pulled Holloway's files. Everything was there. Call logs, transcripts, evidence markers, dates, times, names, all clean, all professional, no red flags. Except one thing. Phelps noticed it first. "There's a gap." "What do you mean?" "Week 5. 3 calls are missing. They were logged as recorded, but the files aren't here." The supervisor frowned. "Equipment malfunction?" "No. The system shows they were downloaded, then deleted." Silence. The deputy director's voice came through the speaker, tight. "Deleted by who?" Phelps checked the access log. "Holloway." The room went cold. "Get him on the phone. Now." They tried. He didn't answer. They sent 2 agents to his house that afternoon. His wife met them at the door. She looked tired. "He's not here." "Where is he?" "I don't know. He left yesterday morning. Said he needed time to think." "Mrs. Holloway, this is a federal investigation. If your husband is withholding," she cut them off. "He's not withholding anything. He's done. He turned in his resignation. He followed protocol. You want more than that, you'll have to find him yourselves." She closed the door. The agents stood on the porch. One of them looked at the other. What the hell happened in that wire room? Nobody knew. Back at the field office, they kept trying. Emails, voicemails, certified letters. Nothing. Phelps took over the wire. The case moved forward. They had enough evidence. Enough recordings. Enough to build conspiracy charges and distribution networks. Holloway's work had been solid, but he was gone, and no one could understand why. 2 months later, Phelps ran into someone who knew Holloway from the Miami field office. They were at a conference in D.C. Over drinks, Phelps asked, "You ever work with Marcus Holloway?" The guy nodded. "Yeah, good agent. Real focused. Why?" "He quit. Middle of a case. Just walked away." The guy's expression shifted. "That doesn't sound like him." "I know, and the weird part is, he looked fine. I mean, he was working a lot, but he wasn't burned out. He was engaged. Like, more than usual." The guy took a sip of his drink. "What was the case?" "BMF. Big Meech." The guy went quiet for a second. Then he said, "You ever listen to The Wire yourself?" "Some. Mostly Marcus handled it." "Well, maybe that's your answer." "What do you mean?" The guy set his glass down. "I worked a wire once on a guy in Miami. High-level trafficker, connected to cartels, politicians, the whole deal. And I listened to him for 3 months. And somewhere around month 2, I realized something." "What?" "I started liking him." Phelps frowned. The guy continued. "Not like, personally. But I understood him. I respected how he operated, how he treated people, and it messed with my head. Because I knew what I was supposed to do. But I couldn't stop thinking about what would happen if I did it." He paused. "Maybe that's what happened to Holloway. Maybe he heard something that made him question the job. And once you start questioning, it's hard to stop." Phelps didn't say anything, but he thought about it. He thought about the hours Holloway spent in that room. Alone. listening to a voice that never yelled, never panicked, never threatened. A voice that sounded like it belonged to someone who mattered. And Phelps wondered, what do you do? The case moved forward without Holloway. By 2005, the FBI had enough coordinated raids across 6 states, over 40 arrests, millions in seized assets. Big Meech was taken into custody in Atlanta, his brother, Southwest T, in Detroit. The entire organization dismantled in a single day. It made national news. BMF kingpin arrested. Multi-million-dollar drug empire crumbles. Hip-hop's dark side exposed. The trial lasted months. The evidence was overwhelming. Wiretaps, testimonies, financial records, everything the FBI had collected over 2 years. And at the center of it, all the recordings. Hundreds of calls. Meech's voice. Calm. Controlled. Undeniable. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Guilty on all counts. Big Meech was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. The courtroom was packed. When the judge read the sentence, Meech didn't flinch. He stood, nodded, looked back at his family, and walked out. Just like that, the empire was over. But the story wasn't. Because 3 years after the conviction, something strange happened. A junior agent named Torres was reviewing old case files for a training seminar. He pulled the BMF wire logs, started cross-referencing recordings with the transcripts used in trial, and that's when he noticed it. Week 5 of Holloway's surveillance. 3 calls were logged in the system, dated, time-stamped, marked as recorded, but the audio files were missing. Torres flagged it, brought it to his supervisor. Probably a technical glitch, the supervisor said. Equipment fails sometimes, but the access log shows they were downloaded. By who? Torres pulled up the metadata. Holloway. The supervisor's expression changed. When? 2 days before he resigned. Silence. The supervisor leaned forward. Were they submitted into evidence? Torres shook his head. No, they're not in the trial file. And they were never transcribed. So they're just gone? Yeah. The supervisor closed the file. Drop it. But I said drop it. We got the conviction. Meech is in prison. This doesn't change anything. Torres wanted to argue, but he didn't. He closed the file, and the missing recordings became a footnote, a small mystery buried in a case that was already closed. But people who worked the case couldn't stop thinking about it. Phelps, especially. He'd ask himself late at night, what was in those calls? What did Holloway hear that made him delete them? And why did he walk away? He never got an answer. But he had a theory, one he didn't share with anyone. He thought maybe, just maybe, Holloway heard something that proved Meech wasn't just a criminal, something that showed the complexity, the humanity, the reasons people followed him. And Holloway couldn't reconcile it, couldn't put it in a report, couldn't use it to destroy a man who despite everything was holding people together. So he deleted it and walked away, because staying meant choosing a side. And Holloway didn't know which side was right anymore. Years passed. Meech stayed in prison. His name became legend. Documentaries, interviews, a TV series. People debated who he really was. A monster, a genius, a product of his environment, a symbol of black excellence, a cautionary tale. Everyone had an opinion, but no one had the full story, because the full story was in 3 recordings that no longer existed. In 2021, a podcast tried to investigate. They tracked down agents who worked the case. Most refused to talk, but one, an older guy, retired, agreed to speak off the record. He didn't give his name, but the host asked him, "Do you think there's more to Big Meech than what we saw in court?" The agent was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I think every person is more than the worst thing they've done, and I think Meech understood that better than most." "What do you mean?" "I mean he was guilty, no question. But he was also someone people believed in. And belief is a powerful thing. It can build communities or destroy them. Do you think the FBI understood that?" The agent laughed. "No, we don't get paid to understand. We get paid to enforce. And you think that's a problem? Another long pause. I think it's the job. But I also think some people can't do the job once they see the whole picture. Are you talking about Marcus Holloway? The agent didn't answer. The host pressed. Do you know what happened to him? No. Do you know what was in the deleted recordings? The agent's voice hardened. No. And I don't want to. Why not? Because some things are better left alone. You go digging into a man's reasons, you might find something that breaks your own. The interview ended there. The podcast aired. It got some attention. But no new information came out. The 3 recordings stayed missing. Holloway stayed silent. And Big Meech stayed in prison. Until 2028, when he was released early. Good behavior. Time served. Federal sentencing reform. He walked out of a facility in California on a Tuesday morning. No cameras, no press, just family. Someone asked him what he was going to do next. He smiled. Live quiet. Stay focused. Take care of my people. Then someone asked, do you regret it? Everything that happened? Meech looked at them. I regret the pain it caused. I don't regret the love it built. They asked one more question. Do you know about the agent, the one who quit? Meech's expression didn't change, but his eyes did. He nodded, slowly. Yeah, I know. Did you ever wonder why? Meech looked out at the horizon. Then he said something no one expected, because he heard the truth, and the truth don't fit in a file. He got in the car and drove away. No one ever confirmed what was in those 3 recordings. But the people who knew Meech,